Choice of silence, risk everything, or live in fear. Elena sat in a room that smelled of antiseptic and cold precision. Her world was a curtain of thick gauze, a blurring of shapes that refused to hold their form. A rare condition was slowly pulling the stars from her sky, leaving her in a deepening twilight. Across from her, Dr. Silas held a clipboard like a heavy shield. He spoke of a revolutionary surgery, a fragile bridge across a chasm. "The success rate is 50%, he said, his voice a low hum of caution. "It could restore the light, or it could take everything that remains." In that quiet office, time fractured. In one reality, version A, Elena reached for the pen, her hand trembling but certain. She signed the consent form, choosing to gamble her breath for a glimpse of the dawn. In another reality, version B, Elena pushed the papers away. The fear of a total, permanent silence, a darkness that might claim her life along with her eyes, was too great. She chose the safety of the shadows she already knew, retreating into the velvet comfort of the dark. For version A, the day of the unveiling arrived with a roar of sensation. When Dr. Silas removed the bandages, the world didn't just return. It exploded. The light was a sharp, beautiful blade that made her eyes weep. For the first time, Elena saw her mother, Alara, noticing the delicate threads of silver in her hair and the warmth in her tired eyes. Outside the window, the sky was a blue so vibrant it felt like a choir singing in color. The world was a masterpiece she had almost lost. For version B, Elena returned to a home she could no longer see, but one she began to feel with terrifying clarity. As the visual world vanished, her other senses ignited. She heard the rhythmic pulse of the wind against the eaves and the hidden, metallic melodies in the hum of the refrigerator. Seeking a way to translate this new language, she felt her way to the old upright piano. Her fingers traced the ivory keys, finding a resonance that matched the vibration of her soul. Years passed, and version A became a world-renowned photographer. She was a hunter of light, traveling to the jagged peaks of the Andes and the neon-soaked streets of Tokyo. Her images captured the fleeting soul of the world, but she was never still. Elena lived in a state of breathless urgency, her eye always pressed to the viewfinder. She was so terrified of the light fading again that she forgot to breathe in the air of the places she visited. She was always rushing to the next frame. Version B became a legendary composer, known as the architect of silence. Because she could not see the stage, she painted her masterpieces with layers of cello, flute, and thunder. Her music didn't just fill a room, it touched the skin of those who listened, vibrating in their very bones. She lived a life that moved like honey, slow, deep, and deliberate. Elena found that by losing the surface of things, she had gained an intimate knowledge of their weight and spirit. A decade after her surgery, version A, Elena, stood in a gallery surrounded by her own success. Suddenly, she felt a familiar, sharp twitch in her left eye. A cold wave of dread washed over her. The doctors had warned her the graft might not last forever. In that moment of panic, she realized that because she had depended so much on her regained sight, she had never learned how to navigate the world without it. She realized she had forgotten how to see with her heart. That same evening, version B, Elena, stood on the stage of a grand concert hall. As the final note of her symphony faded into the rafters, there was a moment of absolute silence before the crowd erupted into a standing ovation. She could not see the thousands of people rising to their feet, nor the tears on their faces, but she didn't need to. She felt the heat of their appreciation and the shift in the air. She had found a light within her own mind that no surgery could ever provide. The fear of version A came true. A second operation was attempted to save her failing sight, but this time the miracle did not repeat. Dr. Silas stood by her bed, his voice heavy with the news of failure. Elena was plunged back into a darkness she had spent 10 years running away from. She was utterly unprepared, feeling like a stranger in her own body. Without the light to guide her, she felt lost in a world that now seemed terrifyingly silent and empty. Meanwhile, version B used her success to open a sanctuary. She started a school for children like Micah, a young boy who had also lost his sight. Elena didn't teach them how to cope, she taught them how to thrive. She showed them that the eyes are just one small way to perceive reality, while the soul is the ultimate lens. Micah sat at the piano, his small hands following hers, learning that the dark wasn't a prison, but a canvas waiting for a different kind of art. In a dreamlike convergence of the two paths, both versions of Elena met in an old, overgrown garden at sunset. The photographer, version A, sat on a stone bench and described the bruised purples and fiery oranges of the dying sun hitting the roses. The composer, version B, sat beside her and described the heavy, velvety scent of those same roses and the low, rhythmic song of the bees returning to their hive. They sat together, two halves of a whole, realizing they both lived in the same beautiful world. We spend our lives terrified of losing the things we hold dear, clinging to the safety of what we know. But sometimes, losing one way of being is the only way to discover another. Every choice is a sacrifice, and every sacrifice is a new beginning. If you stood at that fracture in time, forced to choose between a life of safe comfort or a life of dangerous beauty, which path would you take? Would you choose the risk of the light or the peace of the dark?